If you were left wondering, who was Ma Rainey? Was she a real person? Was this based on a true story? Why did Levee feel the need to stab Toledo? Then keep watching this video. Peace, love, and light, African people. It's the Goddess Neath Night. This is the Blackest truth, where I take the not so easy topic of racism, white supremacy, break it down and make it easier for us to maneuver through. Netflix closed out 2020 with its release of Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, released December 18, 2020, written by August Wilson, screenplay by Ruben Santiago-Hudson, and tweaked just a little bit, directed by George C. Wolfe, and produced by Denzel Washington. This about roughly an hour and a half movie was filmed in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and was about the mother of blues herself. I'm about to get into analysis and about 12 observations of the movie, and I want to hear from you. Did you already know who Ma Rainey was, or did Netflix introduce you? Check down below in the description for the sources and also the playlist of previous movies and TV show dissections. And if you want to know why Levee couldn't open the door, stick around to the end for that extra bonus. Now, without further ado, observation 1. Viola Davis was portrayed like the typical brown, chocolate, more melanated pigment woman is in Hollywood. Oftentimes she was seen as sweaty. She was a lot more assertive, sometimes even brash and mean, especially in comparison to Dusty. Now, I do not eliminate that this has to do with the actual written play by August Wilson himself. I will also mention that Hollywood has this thing where it conditions the mind to continuously see the darker black woman as aggressive, as assertive, as mean, as angry, and the less melanated woman or the lighter complected black woman as the opposite of that. And if you look at Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, it definitely went along with that conditional process. Second observation, her name being Ma, this is going to be parallel with the play. It still also is parallel with the country. The black woman being seen as the mother of the nation, breastfeeding white children, unfortunately being at the expense and tutelage of white men to sleep with, taking care of a lot of the responsibilities of the white woman's household. And how many times in the movie did Cutler say, it don't matter what y'all want, it's what Ma says that goes. So her name being Ma, the black woman being the head, the lead, it kind of went along with that as well. Third observation, Levee. Good Lord, Levee. Played by Chadwick Boseman, this was probably one of the most interesting characters we've seen Chadwick Boseman play in, because it was not like the typical character that he's played in the past. I would be lying if I said Levee was not very annoying to me. However, much like Chadwick Boseman, rest in power to the ancestor, he plays things phenomenally well and to the T. That's why our sentiments and our feelings about Levee were so strong. Interesting fact to know is Levee and the other band members were all fictional. Levee is not real, Toledo's not real, Cutler's not real, nor is Slow Drag. However, I mentioned Levee as an observation, not only because his name being Levee, think about Hurricane Katrina and the power of levees to hold out water or to destroy everything in its path if levees are opened, but also as a piece of the black person. Although Levee was stubborn and naive and a bit obnoxious at times, he was very talented. He was extremely hypersensitive to his environment, and he wanted a lot. This is much like the black individual, and unfortunately, much like in Levee's experience, there are certain factors that don't quite grant us the ability to reach to the aspiration that we would want to reach. Fourth observation, they said the word nigga a lot more than I was comfortable with. And as someone who says nigga a lot more than I should say it, I was just kind of like, why are we acting as if saying the N-word was just that common back then? You had black men that would have laid your ass out had you called them the N-word. You've had black men go to prison and jail behind people calling them the N-word. And over the last 30 to 40 years, the term has been, much like most things in our community, normalized and accepted as everyday vernacular. However, from watching this, which is supposed to be a depiction of 1927 Georgia, I don't necessarily know if I agree that black people were throwing around the word nigga that casually. I just don't know if I believe that. Fifth observation, they left you guessing who Ma Rainey was. Now, taking into consideration that this was a stage play and there's only so much you could make around a stage play, there was still these huge chunks of misunderstanding and being left with these questions of, is this how Ma Rainey really was? Because this is really only like 2 or 3 hours of her life. If this is not based on a true story, I need to know more about her. And because that, Ma Rainey was born Gertrude Pritchett, and she's credited with bridging vaudeville, which was an intermingling of poetry and dialogue in your songs with Southern blues. She adopted the name Ma from her husband Pa, who she married in 1904. Now, although in the second observation I mentioned her name being Ma, this is not short for mama or mammy. This is short for actually Madame. So Ma is the condensed version of Madame Rainey. It stuck and they toured in minstrel troupes together. She toured with Rabbitfoot minstrels and was said to be like a mentor to Bessie Smith, also known as the Empress of the Blues. Her and Bessie were so close that it was rumored at one point that they might have been intimate, but for sure, Bessie Smith is known to have bailed Ma out of jail when she had got caught up by Chicago PD with some other women in an abundance of anatomy, I'll call it. She was signed to Paramount Records, but her contract was terminated in 1928 because her style was no longer considered popular and was not the trend. Sixth observation is what I've mentioned in a lot of my other dissections. It's very much like consistent with a lot of Netflix TV shows and movies, the LGBTQ agenda. What's different here than in Self-Made was in Self-Made, Leela Walker having a girlfriend was forced LGBTQ agenda, versus in Ma Rainey, she was actually a known lesbian. Like I just mentioned, Bessie Smith had to bail her out of jail because she had got caught up with some women. But she even has a song called Prove It On Me where the lyrics say, I went out last night with a crowd of my friends. It must have been women because I don't like no men. Wear my clothes just like a fan. Talk to the gals just like my old man. Because they said I do it. Ain't nobody caught me. Sure gotta prove it on me. As I mentioned before, this stays consistent with the LGBTQ agenda, always remembering that it is highly favorable to continuously put these agendas on black men and black women to limit our procreative probability. And if you do not understand that, go and watch the playlist over the LGBTQ agenda. Seventh observation, the rivalry mentioned about Bessie Smith. This is even consistent with a lot of what you see right now. It's as if black women, black entertainers, black rappers cannot occupy the very same niches at the same time. It's like because Bessie Smith is doing blues and also Ma Rainey is doing blues, there has to be some type of competition. Surely there's not enough room at the top for everyone. So because Ma Rainey's Black Bottom is not based on a true story, we do not know that this has happened. I just mentioned it as an observation because it was in the movie and it also is something that we typically do as black people. Eighth observation, Ma had to fight for everything. This is very parallel to the black experience. She had to fight for AC. She had to fight for Coke. And like she said, the Coke was not expensive. They were making so much money off of her. Not to have a fully functional studio when she got there was just unacceptable. And if you feel by chance she was doing too much, look at the very end of the movie where when the white artists came in to sing Levee songs, they all had enough microphones. They didn't look like they were sweating. They looked like they were very comfortable. And in those scenes, I definitely saw how black people always have to fight for what non-black people get by default. Ninth observation, and probably one of the biggest observations that I know y'all saw, Levee stabbing Toledo. Whew, that has so many layers to it. Levee took out on Toledo his misplaced aggression and frustration with Mr. Sturdivant. Mr. Sturdivant, in this case, who also is fictional, represents the frustrations, the unmet expectations of white supremacy, continuously telling black people that you'll get this and you'll get this. So much like I'm waiting to see how this next 4 years is going to go with the Biden administration. You've guaranteed black people something and then you don't honor your agreement, and those same black people are left frustrated, and rather than taking it out on you, the rightful person who deserves it, we take it out on each other. Thus why you see Levee stabs and kills Toledo overstepping over his shoes, and Toledo didn't even mean to do it. 10th observation, picking up with Mr. Sturdivant, the two types of non-black European people. You have your coercer, you have your liberal, and then you have your no bullshit conservative. Irv was more of the liberal appeasing of Ma, and Sturdivant was more of the stern conservative, I'm not gonna tolerate her bullshit type of white person. Never to be misunderstood, no matter how much Irv coerced Ma, she still recognized who he was and recognized him and Mr. Sturdivant was still on the very same team. I think we as black people should pay very close attention to that. Ma wasn't so lost in the sauce that she recognized that Irv was really her manager and on her side. Man, how many artists need to hear this in record labels? 11th observation was there was a lot of historical references. Levee made a lot of comments about this jug band shit. What is jug band? It's improvised instrumentals, basically using what you have on you to make sound. The tent concerts, these Clyde hoppers, the glass Coke bottle. It was a lot of historical references that definitely gave you that vibe and gave you that feel that you were literally immersed in the 1920s. The 12th observation, what is a black bottom? The movie is called Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, and I don't know if y'all were thinking the same thing that I was thinking, but when I first heard it, I was thinking, Ma Rainey's black ass? Is that what a black bottom is? And even when Dusty was dancing and shaking her derriere, I'm like, oh, a black bottom must be a black booty. That's why I say Ma Rainey was probably one of the earlier versions of a Trina, Foxy Brown, Charlie Baltimore, Lil' Kim. We just don't know. We really don't know. It literally could be possible. And for the bonus, why couldn't Levee open the door? Did you all think about that as much as I did? Well, this is what I gathered from it. Levee can't open the door because much like his life and much like him even being in Ma Rainey's band, he feels contained, he feels locked, he feels trapped. So every time he tries to get through this door, essentially, I'm gonna get out of this band, I'm gonna start my own thing, I'm gonna have my own group, he's blocked. Him constantly fighting with the door is what he does in life. And it being locked and blocked is unfortunately the response that Levee feels that life gives him. His mother being raped, nothing that he could do, locked door. Him having an opportunity to have his own band according to Mr. Sturdivant, Mr. Sturdivant not honoring his agreement, locked door. And then he gets to a point where he pushes so hard where he finally does break through the door just to see what he truly wants, which is freedom. The sky up above is still out of his reach. So Mr. Sturdivant buys his songs, but he never gives him an opportunity to perform them on his own. Levee in so many ways feels blocked. What did you all get from it? Why do you all feel like the door was closed for Levee? What was it about his shoes? Did you pick up on the layers of him stabbing Toledo being a lot of why black on black crime exists? What do you all think about it? And are you relieved that Levee was not real? I think more than anything, when I went back and researched all of this stuff, when I found out that the band Cutler, unfortunately, I love me some Cutler and Slow Drag. When I found out that the band was all fictional, I said, oh God, thank you. If the band is fictional, that means that Toledo was not stabbed and Levee ain't as much as a fool as we thought he was. No disrespect to Chadwick Boseman. It's the Goddess Niece Night. I'll see y'all later. Mwah.